Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. It's meteorologist Joe Moritucci here at the Press of Atlantic City for our year-end Across the Sky podcast. Join with me as we do every week, our Lee Enterprises weather team, and we are in full force this week. We have all four of us here. It's been a little bit since we have all four of us here, but it's good to be all together. We have Matt Holliner in the Midwest, Kirsten Lang in Tulsa, and we have Sean over in Richmond. Matt, so we are, this will be dropped on December 26th. So tell us how you're going to be feeling on December 26th outside in Chicago.
I hope it'll be warmer than it's going to be this coming weekend, because we are getting a shot of cold air. I mean, what a winter storm. I'll be enjoying the flip side once it's all over, after the worst of the cold is over, the worst of the crazy wind. I mean, gusts 50, 60 miles per hour, not just in a few locations, but a lot of places across the Midwest. It's going to be one for the books, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's already, it's cold when the NFL and reporters start putting out tweets about coldest wind chill games in NFL history for some of these. That's going to be a future podcast topic too, by the way. Kirsten, over in Tulsa, what's happening? What's going on?
Man, I mean, that cold air, it's coming all the way down to Oklahoma. So we actually already have wind chill watches out, meaning our wind chills are going to be down 20, 30 below zero as we head into, it'll be Friday, December 23rd. That morning will be a cold one. Now, I am lucky enough that I will be on vacation in sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. So I will be missing all of this stuff, but at least the wind chills. But that cold air, it won't be prolonged. It'll just be a couple days, but doesn't sound too fun.
Yeah, good for you. Can you take us with you to Scottsdale? Can you all get out of the cold, go to sunny Arizona?
Come along.
Yeah. Sean, what's happening, my man, just down the road here?
Yeah, you know what? This is one of these situations where I'm very happy to live east of the Appalachians, because that takes a little bite out of some of these cold outbreaks, right? I mean, for Tulsa and Texas, really, that air just rushes right down the plains. There's nothing stopping it. Whereas at least here on the east side of the Appalachians, that cold air has got to get forced over the mountains and then back down. So it warms a tiny bit as it comes down the east side of the Appalachians. So it takes a little bit of the bite out of it. So, I mean, we're going to be windy like everybody else, especially Friday and Saturday when the cold air advances. And we'll have highs in the upper 20s to low 30s. Our lows will be in the low and mid teens. So we've certainly been colder. This isn't going to be epic for us. It's going to be noteworthy, to be sure. But the other thing is that it won't last an awfully long time. By Wednesday, Thursday next week, a lot of that will retreat. And a lot of signs are like the first of the year won't be so bad. So buckle down for these next few days. But, compared to what y'all have to deal with, especially you, Matt, oh my word, dude, I'm just thinking about you every day as this thing comes through.
Yeah, you just get slapped in the face with that cold air if you're in Chicago or west of the Appalachians. So I think for us, East Coast, we really need that air to come straight from the north down. That's how we get those really frigid nights with the wind chills and everything. I do remember 2017. That's when I first started here, and it was frigid from Christmas all the way until January 4th. We had the Delaware Bay, which is just between New Jersey and Delaware here, froze, and that doesn't happen too often.
No, I remember the upper Chesapeake doing the same as well. Now, Matt, I haven't looked at snow cover maps. Is there any snow on the ground there now?
And a lot of the Midwest, no. I mean, we've had snows, but it was a lot of wet snows. Now, this is going to be the exception, where this is going to be a dry, fluffy snow in a lot of places. But so far, a lot of the Midwest snows have been really wet snows, and they have not stuck around very long, because it's been a lot of snows where a lot of snow looks like it's coming down, but it doesn't really pile up on the ground because the ground is above freezing, and then it warms up real quick. And so there's been very little snow cover across the Midwest, but this is going to be one where the snow cover is going to linger for a change, and a dry, fluffy snow is going to pile up fast too.
And I think this is the point that you and I were making, Joe. The air still moderates because it's not sitting over top of snowpack. If we're going to get massive cold here east of the Appalachians, we want a nice snowpack. There needs to be a big snowpack so that air coming in here from the Midwest, and Canada doesn't have a chance to warm up on its way here. So I think that, and plus there's no snowpack on the ground here either. So I think those are working against us for record cold, which I'm fine with.
Yeah, I think most of us are okay without the record cold. We're looking in Jersey for our coldest Christmas since the year 2000. I think it's about the same for you, Sean.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're okay without the record cold here. So hopefully by the time you guys are listening to this, it's warmer, and you're listening to this somewhere where it's warmer as well, whether it's in your car with the heated seat or in your house. Hopefully you're not outside taking a walk where it's 19 degrees listening to us. Although shout out and much dedication to the game if you are. So for this episode, we thought it'd be fun to look ahead to 2023. You know, everyone likes their New Year's resolutions. Always the gym's one of them. Get more sleep. We're done with that. We're going to talk about our weather resolutions for the year 2023. We're going to kind of just go around a couple of different ones. Some of them are more serious than others, but we definitely wanted to bring a nice variety here. We have a nice list right now, and I see Matt's name at the top of this list. So I'm going to kick it over to him for his weather resolution for this year.
This is a big one and a very, we're having to step back, and whether this resolution will come to fruition, I'm not sure, but at least it's a goal that I think we can start working to. And it's just, in general, I want more meteorologists. I want more companies to hire meteorologists. I want more meteorologist openings. And I also want students who are in high school right now to consider getting into meteorology and choosing meteorology as a profession, because honestly, with the rate of these big weather events that we're having, whether it's winter storms, the number of hurricanes, the number of severe thunderstorms, I mean, we need all hands on deck with so much extreme weather. I mean, each year it just seems like it's one event after another. I mean, the stretches we have quiet weather across the country, those are just becoming few and far between. It seems like there's rare a time where there's nothing big going on somewhere in the country. So we need all the help we can get. And I tell you, I think it's a situation now where we don't currently have enough meteorologists. So the meteorologists that are out there are kind of getting burned out. And there are people that are, also you've got an older generation. You got a lot of baby boomers who are, been in the profession a long time, but they're retiring just because it's time. And just some people are just kind of worn out from all these events because we don't have enough help right now. There are a lot of people that are just getting out of the business because it's just like too much. And I've kind of felt that myself covering weather across the Midwest. There's a little bit of a burnout factor. I mean, I love weather and I'm going to stick with it, but man, I could use some help. I hope we can get some more meteorologists in the field, private sector, broadcasts at all levels. And if you're at all interested in the weather, please consider meteorology if you're in high school right now as a degree option, because we need some more meteorologists.
Yeah, I think with that point, Matt, I think decision support is a lot of what meteorology and meteorologists can do going forward. Working them into emergency management, disaster preparedness. Like we saw what happened with Ian, there's a lot of just bad information out there. And, when we have meteorologists who also have experience in emergency management, disaster preparedness, that cuts down on miscommunication, and we can make better decisions. I say we, but people who have to make the decisions about stay or go, build this, don't build that, don't go out on the river yet, do go out on the river, you shouldn't build this thing over here. Those are the kinds of things I think that meteorologists will be even more useful for going forward. In addition, yes, there's the everyday stuff, to be sure. But when we have the high impact events, decision support is critical, because like I think all of us have seen too many times, people make bad decisions and they're like, why did you do that when the data was there, the information was there for you to, not do that, but you did it anyway. So I'm hoping that's kind of my resolution, kind of bouncing off of what you just said.
Yeah. I mean, so many tentacles that comes from meteorology that goes, into other sectors of the business. I was actually just doing a school talk earlier today, and we were talking about different ways, meteorologists get hired, and most of them aren't like the four of us here that are, working in some kind of media. There's a lot of decision support in private sector, Even military too, our armed forces need meteorologists as well. So, there's plenty of different fields. I think us as a weather community, I think we're doing a better job at highlighting those, but I definitely think most high schoolers going into college are still thinking of some kind of news or YouTube as the way to go for that. So I'm looking at the list again. Matt, you're the second one again. You are you're the head honcho with this, but you want me to kick it over to I can kick it over to Kirsten. I know she had one just a couple down on our list. Kirsten, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, well, mine was just it was again kind of piggybacking off of what Matt had said too, is that I think, we all kind of have the broadcast background and have done that, and it's great because it's a great tool to be able to provide information to people, but sometimes I think people, and when I say people I mean students, maybe hear things about the times, the scheduling that you have when you go through broadcasting and things, and it can deter them from continuing or applying for those types of positions. And so what I was going to say is there are a lot of other meteorology positions, as you guys were just saying, out there that that have a little bit more of a structured time scale that on a daily basis at least, that I think could be enticing to students. And I think at least when I was in school, I mean, it's been a second since I've been in school, but when I was in school, the majority of the kids in my class, or the students in my class, really were going more towards the broadcast route because it seems to be the most high profile position. But like we said, there's a lot of other meteorologists needed, and some of these big companies, they pay great. It's great pay, and it's a good schedule. And so, anyways, it was just kind of piggybacking off of what Matt said. The other thing that I started writing down and I didn't finish it on that list was that one thing that I have done now with this new role here with Lee, which I love, is I've been able to answer more questions. I know a lot of people have questions about the weather, and a lot of people are interested in the weather, and they want to know more. And like Sean mentioned earlier, there's a lot of misinformation out there on social media, just on the internet in general, not just with weather, with everything, but with weather specifically. And so it's I guess something, as a resolution of mine too, is to continue trying to educate people that have questions about weather, climate, things like that where they may be getting information that is wrong, or not quite the full truth. I think that would be one of my resolutions, is to hopefully just continue that again this year. It's been a lot of fun this year being able to do that. There's been great feedback here, I think, in the Tulsa area. A lot of people have really appreciated being able to learn new stuff, or at least maybe diving deeper into questions that they have had about the weather or climate or whatever. And so, yeah, so that'd probably be my resolution, is just keep on answering those questions and hopefully keep giving people answers. And, like we do with this podcast, we reach out to, professionals within our business as well that I tend to joke, and I'm like, yeah, they're a lot smarter than me, and they know a lot more about certain topics than I do. And so it's good to be able to reach out to those people and get answers from people who really do spend most of their time focused on one particular topic within the weather and climate spectrum.
I think our resolution should be keep on keeping on with our podcast here, because we've been doing really good over the past couple of weeks with a lot of you who are listening not only to single episodes, but across the spectrum of episodes that we've had as well. So we wouldn't be doing this without you. So we do appreciate that. I want to touch on one thing you had, Kirsten. You were talking about pay before, and this is going to go into my 2023 weather resolution. And this is to help out our youngest broadcast meteorologists that are entering the field. A lot of times, you think, oh, this person's on TV, that must be making a lot of money. Depending on where you are, you're probably not, especially in a lot of these smaller areas. Where you're making, $28,000, $27,000 a year. I do wish there's a way for our youngest, 22, 23, 24 to really, be able to get paid what, they're worth in terms of the hours being all over the place. They're doing a lot of roles. Of course, you have a lot of excitement starting out, but I just think some people don't see it being worth, maybe going to somewhere that they're not familiar with. Working Saturdays and Sundays for 2 or 3 years straight in a row, and then not getting the same kind of pay that their friends, whether they're in weather or not in weather, getting, especially having a college degree. This is a very hot topic. You'll see bubble up on the Twitterverse every once in a while. I know there's only X amount of dollars to go around, but if we can really make it so that our meteorologists, who are wanting to get into media, are able to, sustain themselves without having to work a second job or having to rely on their parents if they can, over those first couple of years, especially if they're far away from home.
Yeah, and that kind of ties in with my general idea about getting more meteorologists in the business. And part of it is getting some better starting pay, because that's a big reason why people, not only don't get in the first place, but also don't stay in the business. Because if you're starting at such a low salary to start, it takes a long time to work your way up. And some people can't wait. And so it's like, I can't wait anymore. I need to change jobs. I've got a college degree. Let me change jobs, switch gears just so I can get better pay. And so then they leave the meteorology field. So, there are some good paying meteorology jobs out there, to be sure, but they're especially a lot of entry level jobs, the pay is real low and it takes time to work your way up. And some people just can't afford to wait that long or can't even start at that pay. So I definitely support that. Got to get some better starting salaries for entry level meteorologists. Absolutely.
Yeah. Another one we had here, was about more funding for the National Weather Service. We'll keep it in the dollars and cents here. I think, Matt, you have this one.
Yeah, so this is another one. I feel like it's such an easy thing we can do to, the biggest thing about the field of meteorology is we want to be more accurate. And there are limitations to accuracy, but there are certain things that can be done to improve the accuracy. And one of the biggest ones would be if we could launch more weather balloons in more locations more frequently. But because the National Weather Service has a set budget, and in my opinion, it is not a big enough budget, we can only launch a certain number of weather balloons from a certain number of locations. And a lot of places, we're only launching them twice a day. And in a special weather event, we might do some extra balloon launches. And sure enough, when you do that, suddenly the computer models get more accurate and our forecasts get more accurate. And I think that's what the public wants the most, is more accurate forecast, longer out too. We're getting better and better, but we can still get better. And all we have to do is launch more weather balloons and get more of an idea of what's going on up high in the atmosphere, not just at the surface. We have a lot of good surface observations, but those weather balloons are so critical to tell us what the wind direction is, what the wind speed is, what the temperature is, what the humidity is at all levels in the atmosphere. We need that information to plug that data into the computer models. And if we had more data going into the computer models, they would get more accurate. We would have better forecasts. But in order to launch more weather balloons, we need more funding for the National Weather Service. So Congress, it's time to increase the budget for the National Weather Service and we can get more accurate forecasts, which isn't that what everybody wants?
That is what everybody wants, for sure. Hey, a couple of things on that, though, and any of y'all jump in on this. My understanding, though, is that we're running out of helium for balloons. Have any of y'all heard this, that there's like a helium shortage?
No.
Yeah. And
Sound the alarm.
This is just off the top of my head, but I've been reading for a couple of years that there's some questions about how much helium we have left to put into weather balloons and other types of things. Second, back to what you were saying, Matt, in terms of getting more data, I wonder how much better data we're going to be able to get out of polar orbiting satellites that are able, they're not the geostationary satellites. They're in a much lower altitude, so they can get higher resolution data in space. How good those microwave sensors and things are like that to try to determine what wind and what the wind profile is to the depth of the atmosphere, what's the moisture profile through the depth of the atmosphere. One of the things I'm having a hard time finding out is how good is that satellite information, those low orbiting satellites, getting that data into the numerical models. certainly you can't beat the in situ data that you get from the weather balloon data over such a high resolution across the continent. But I wonder how good the polar orbiting data is. So that's a question I need to go find out.
Yeah, remote sensing options. We also get data from airplanes too. That helps.
Yeah.
But the issue is it's where the planes fly, you get the data. And so the biggest thing, even when it comes to weather balloons too, is we are missing so much data over the oceans, these huge expanses of our planet where we are missing so much data, especially in the upper levels, because there are not as many planes. I mean, planes fly over the ocean, but not as at the same level, at the same rate and frequency that they do over land. And there are some buoys out there that measure at the surface, but again, we're missing so much in the upper atmosphere, and our weather comes from the west. So if we could just have a network of weather balloons that could somehow be automatically launched at buoys in the Pacific Ocean, man, I just feel like that could just boost the accuracy of our forecast, especially our long-range forecast, to get an idea of what these systems are like over the Pacific, so we have a better idea once they get to the West Coast, what condition they're going to be in.
I was just reading. I just did a little bit of Googling while we were talking here. There is a helium shortage, and it's actually very important for MRIs. I did not know that. MRIs need helium. So I guess we're going to have some choices to make down the road. Hopefully we can get some more helium in our balloon.
I feel like we add it to the list, of the shortage things. Right now, ours, in my house, it's the children's Tylenol. There's a shortage.
I heard about that too. Yeah. Is it Motrin also that's short?
I don't know, but that Tylenol is pretty key in my house.
It's a hot commodity. Man, check it out. Sean, do you have one?
Most of these are covered pretty well. I don't have anything off the top of my head, but I think just going back to some of the things we discussed earlier to improve communication, and with that, we need to continue to bring more social science into emergency management, emergency preparedness. We need to continue to, and some of this is being done already. We had Kim on back in the early days of the podcast, but continue to do this multidisciplinary approach to weather communications so we can understand how people are receiving our messages, so we can be sure to get it to them in the best way possible so that they really understand what we're saying and they understand the risks that are out there. There's some genies that aren't going back to the bottle. People are going to keep posting model output out 8-9 days. Hey, look at the big storm that's coming, even though, it's not, but whatever. Those are things that I don't know how we're going to fix. But in terms of short-term, high impact decision support, those are things I want us just to keep on ironing out as an enterprise.
Yeah, you know what, Sean? You were making me think too, do we maybe hope for a New Year's resolution that maybe, you can only post to social media once a day. You can only post once a day, then you can't fit all the 240-hour radar loops, in the future, and the 360 GFS models. So I don't know. I have one more real quick, and this one is a little more serious. It's about the hurricane cone, because I think what we need to do, I think we're so good at forecasting at least tracks of the hurricanes within that forecast cone that we need to increase the confidence interval of the cone. And what I mean by that is this. Right now, hurricane cones, when you look at that forecast cone, that's only a 66% confidence interval that the center of the storm is going to be within that cone. And you look at how much the cone has shrunk, even over the past 10 years, it's pretty decent size. I think we're at a point, in my opinion, that we could go up to 75% confidence interval, expand that cone a little bit, and really give people, less of a, surprise if there is a change in the forecast track. I don't know if many people know that it's only 66% confidence interval, but I think we're so good with our hurricane forecast tracks right now that time to bump it up. That would be my suggestion. I know this takes years. I'm not a research scientist, but that is my other resolution for 2023.
And drill home the fact that impacts are far away from the center. They're far away from the cone. Even if you're not in a cone, you can be under a hurricane warning. And I think, in the old days when I was coming up, you just had the warning. That was it. There was The cone was not readily available back in the 80s. So
that wasn't back in your day, Sean. Come on.
Back in my day, we ripped the maps off of a die fax and we posted them on the wall, and you had to dial up to get a radar, all that stuff, all that old guy stuff. But the problem is, and this goes back to what we said before, there is so much weather information out there. It's hard for the consumer to really know what is accurate, what is dreamland stuff. I think that's where our work continues to be, and why we're still valuable is to cut through the noise of this proliferation of weather information and to try to distill it into something that people can actually use.
All right. Well, we'll toss the break here, and we'll be back with you guys in just a couple of minutes here. You're listening to the Across the Sky podcast. So that was it, everyone. Those were our resolutions for 2023 from the four of us. Guys, as we go into our 2023, let's hope many of these come true here. And I think we can all agree, let's hope maybe the weather's a little calmer this year. Nothing too significant by the time we wrap up next year going into 24. What does everyone think?
Oh, no, it's going to be busy. It's always going to be busy. Unfortunately, that's what keeps us employed. Our mission really is, I think, for anybody who does this line of work, is protect life, protect property, that kind of stuff. Because the weather is certainly not going to get quieter. As we've seen, the planet's warming. There's going to be more moisture in the atmosphere. Rain's heavier. It gets hotter. All that stuff. So it's important to have people looking out at what's going on and convey information to the general public concisely as possible.
Yeah, as they say, the trend is your friend. And if the last few years have taught us anything, it's that quiet weather will be more of a rarity. It's going to be more active weather. Again, you just always hope to avoid the most epic and, devastating events. And some years are just better than others. And of course, there's been devastating weather events many years back. It's not like extreme weather is a new thing, but just the frequency of these significant events, they just seem to be fewer stretches. I mean, you can see that, over, looking back from the 1980s, the number of days we go between these significant events is just shrinking. $1 billion weather disasters, for example, that's kind of a telltale sign of it. That was a big deal. If it $1 billion worth of damage, and the time we go between those $1 billion weather disasters has just been consistently shrinking. Again, some year-to-year variability, but you look over the last several decades, and there just have been more and more of those. And I hope 2023 will be one of those lower years, but to say that we're going to avoid $1 billion weather disasters in 2023, don't think that's going to happen.
I guess one can dream. Kirsten, any last words before we toss it and see everyone again in 2023?
Yeah, it's I'm gonna jinx us, I feel like, but the past couple of years have been relatively quiet in Tulsa, I think, especially when you compare it to what we had in 2019. So hopefully it stays calm here, and I'm talking more severe weather type situations. Of course, we did have some pretty bad cold streaks in there in 2021, but yeah, just things, hopefully just avoiding any big disasters, as Matt said. Of course, that's what everybody hopes for.
Yeah, we'll hope, but as Matt said, I guess the odds are not in our favor on this one. So we will wrap it for our episode of Across the Sky Podcast 2023 Weather Resolutions. Hope everyone has a wonderful new year. Hope everyone has fun. Stay safe. We're going to go into year 2 of this podcast next year. Next week, we'll have a new episode for you. This is actually an interview that I had with Terry Barr from one of our sister podcasts here at Lee Enterprises. I hope you all enjoy that. And we got a whole slate of weather podcast goodness for you as we go into the rest of January. So happy New Year, everyone. And we will talk to you next week. Thanks for listening again to the Across the Sky Podcast.